How's it going, everyone? I'm here with Mike. He is our recent Chase the Case winner, winning a CC event with none other than Kano. So, Mike, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, how's it going? My name is Mike. Mostly locally play at Steve's store.
Yeah,
Great place. You should definitely come every Saturday.
super
Yeah.
appreciate the shout out, man. So let talk to us about what's going on here with Kano. What's your armor line looking like? What were your kind of sides you were thinking about? Or first of all, let's start with how big is the deck?
Well, it's an 80 card deck, obviously. It's CC. Um, Pretty much always side down to 60. Um, Rare occasion I might run 62 into a full null room Bravo. But the deck is not complicated at all, really. There's pretty much two loadouts you're going to play, one tall and one wide. And you're pretty much hedging your bet on whether the opponent has null rune or not. You can certainly win if they're on full null rune and you take the side path. It's just much more difficult. If you end up playing into like a Bravo with your side, if you're sided for wide, you're gonna have a bad day. But most other decks, like you run into a Rhinar or something that's on three null rune, and you're playing the wide version, you're still okay. You're just gonna have to be more patient, wait till they empty their hand and play on their turn. But we'll get to that in a second. So simply, we got Kano, and to start with his armor. Every game. We never change weapon. We always play Crucible. We need it to pump to get over Nullrune, to do all sorts of good things. 99% of games we're running the Talismanic Lens. Too important to dig when needed and to finish games. Or even in the mid game, you have a handful of blues and say an Aether Flare and Arsenal. That's the dream hand. You're just gonna pop off and do insane amounts of damage as long as you know what's on top. You don't want to be just digging for no reason and wasting blues. So 99% of games we're playing that. Every single game we play the Tunic, no exception. No other chess piece in the board for obvious reasons. Every three you get a free resource, comes in handy. Only gloves we play are the Metacarpus node, needed to finish games. It's a huge deal to have this. Um, Without it, you're going to come up short quite often. There is argument to play null rune, or sorry, not null rune gloves, iron block gloves, just as a one block, specifically against ninja, just to break up Kadachi spam, to give you some breathing room between turns, so you're not worried about mask popping and or mask triggering and ruining your day. Boots, no exception. Literally can't play the deck without this. Without it, you're losing every single game. It's basically what's enabled an extra turn for Kano. It's the only reason why you can function on 30 life as opposed to 40 like every other hero. And the one option for side equipment would be the skull cap. Pretty much only play this into Katsu, and it's simply to give you two turns of breathing room against the Kadachis, so he doesn't trigger mask. 99% of Katsus are going to run one or zero null rune. Now that Briar's around, usually they got one. Prior to Briar, they were running zero. So you just play this, stop the second Kadachi two turns in a row, so he doesn't trigger mask, and it lets you keep your whole hand and um, do more damage than he does. Just racing from 40 to zero, which surprisingly easy to do. Into
So,
the blue cards.
so
Yeah,
just
go
before
ahead.
we go into the deck, the one thing that question I do have to ask is, so I've seen in some lists for their chess piece, they do run the option of potentially playing Robo Rapture. So you can kind of just, it seems like when you said, no, nothing else, you wouldn't run anything other than the tunic. Is it because in a CC game there really isn't any room for like a one-off like explode a robe kind of turn, and you need to be thinking of more longevity with the tunic, or what was the thought behind that?
Well, the tunic, for one thing, it has block one. Comes in really handy. It can come in very handy to keep you alive. Um, the thing with the robes, most people that have the robes in their list, that's more of a blitz thing. It's a chess option in blitz. You play it in the mirror, so you can have four null rune with the robes giving you one, gloves giving you one. and the boots give you 2, so you got 4 null rune. Lets you stop all of Kano's important triggers from Sonic Boom, Lessons in Lava, Aether Flare, blah blah blah. That's the only reason to run that. If you didn't have a tunic and you still want to play the deck, you absolutely need the boots. But for a budget option here, you can play Deep Blue, the new card from Tales of Aria. It does have so if you get like an all red hand, you put one to the bottom, gives you 3 resources. You can still play your turn. So if I was gonna suggest any like a budget option here, it would be that. Um, Otherwise, if you can get your hand on the tunic, no reason to run any other chest, in my opinion.
All right. So you're going through your reds now or blues?
No, we'll go to the blues next.
Going to
So
blues. All right.
less impactful cards. So we'll start with the blues. Um, Firstly, we got blue reverberate, 3 of them. Solid card, blocks 3, pitches 3, has a hit trigger. So people are running 1 null rune. You can do some fun things with it. If you did have like a full blue hand, or even if desperately needed, you can play a blue reverberate, pumping one with the crucible. It'll let you banish a card from your hand if they're playing 1 null rune. Um, it opens up some options. So there's certainly worse choices, but I mean, some of the blues you play them just because they're block threes, and um, I'll go through the ones that we don't use and why. But the next one, Aether Spindle, 2 cost, gives you an opt. Again, blocks 3. Next one, Gaze the Ages. This is the best blue in the deck, bar none. Nothing even comes close. Definitely want 3 of these in. Card just does so much for you. It lets you opt 2, comes back to your hand, lets you Kano off one of the cards you opted, as long as you played a non-attack wizard action card. Um, the amount of power, like if you were new to the game, you looked at a card like this, the power isn't obvious, but this card just does so much for you. It's unreal. You definitely want 3 without question. You have 3 blue snapbacks, again blocks 3. Um, there's worse options in blue, but blocks 3 also gives you the chance to turn on things like chain lightning if you have no other option with it in your hand, and then allows you to play something else as an instant. So great card. 3 blue voltage bolt, again just blocks, comes in for 3, pumps to 4, costs 2, just a good card. You have 3 blue scalding rain next, again cost 1, comes in for 2, blocks 3. Surprisingly, most of Kano's cards do block 3, with some exceptions. But you'll notice that the bulk of the deck does block 3, so it's not. There'll be times where if you have to block, it's not actually the end of the world, but you really don't want to block if you don't have to. So Aether Flare, blue will pump for 1, or buffs based on how much damage it does. Good card. Next blue, Cindering Foresight. You Kano this off the top. So like that's another thing. A lot of blues, most blues you don't want to arsenal. Some of them you don't feel bad arsenaling. So like Cindering Foresight's not bad to arsenal, and Gaze the Ages is a great arsenal card. Most other blues you don't really want to be putting in there if you can avoid it. But these 2 in particular are great, especially if you want to play on your opponent's turn. Cindering is great. It'll give you the 1 opt on top of the 1 buff. And if you can it off the top, you're not mad about it. So again, you get the 1 opt and the buff 1. 3 blue potions or energy potions, self-explanatory. One of the if you can get this on out and play at any given time, all of a sudden you're a lot more threatening. Time snap potion, just a 1 of. If you happen to Kano off the top, great card. Can let you set up things like blazing an arsenal, all sorts of fun things. If you have Aether Flare, pairs well with Aether Flare, blazing sorts of things. And if you got one, you put it in the deck because even though it's dead off of a Kano, it's still insane. Every time you draw this, you're super excited because it's like popping lens. Lets you dig 2 before actually Kanoing, and no reason to not play the eye. Super good. Doesn't block, and you can't put it in arsenal because if you do, it's stuck there for the rest of the game. But if it's in your hand, you're super excited and happy about it. So that's the blues. It's 29 blues. Is what you're gonna play every without exception, every single game you're going to play 29 blues. I wouldn't recommend going any lower. You could go one higher to 30, but I don't find that necessary. So I found that 29 is to have in your deck in any game. So yeah,
That's a
some of
very
the other
solid blue list. I can't even think of anything else that I want to put in there.
yeah
But I'm
here
interested to
here's
see the options. Let's see these.
yeah here's the other options I've played with before and that I've found to be good at times. So you got blue rousing Aether. It's actually a good choice. Um, so it deals two, buffs your next spell by one, but it costs two. You kind of like when it's in your hand, it's just a blue that blocks three. So it does the same thing as like Scalding Rain and things like that. But it can be a little bit obnoxious if you hit it off the top and you're kind of short on resources because now you got to pay two to deal two. And if you don't have a follow up, then the one additional damage on the next spell isn't used. So I don't know. I found the only reason why I liked having it in is because it's a nice looking card, especially in foil. It's got like that purple and everything.
Oh my God.
But beyond that, I feel like you get more value out of like the blue Scalding Rain. And what I had actually switched it out for was the Cindering Foresight. So this is the card I took out for the Cindering. I found the Cindering to be more useful when I hit it off the top. I'm more annoyed if I hit this than if I hit the Cindering. Generally, when you're Kanoing, you don't want to hit a blue, but if you do, you want it to be an impactful blue. So I find the Cindering better. Next choice, three Whisper the Oracle. In theory, I mean, it's a great card. Blocks three, Kano's off the top, lets you opt two. And if you do it on your turn, you also gain an extra action point or refresher action point if you've played one. So I don't know, maybe you know what's on top. You play Aether Flare out of your hand, then you Kano this off the top, and all of a sudden you got an action point again. Pretty cool. But again, I want cards that are more impactful. Um, because this is pretty much you're paying three to opt two. You do this generally, and when you hit it off the top with Kano, it doesn't feel great. And if it doesn't feel good, then I'm not enjoying. I don't want it in my deck. Next one's Foreboding Bolt. I did play with this one a bit. You get the one damage, one opt, which is pretty nice for one cost. But again, didn't feel as good as Cindering Foresight, so it didn't make the cut. Then you got Zap, 0 for 3. Sorry, 0 blocks 3, deals one. It's okay, but again, I enjoyed Cindering more, and then you had Blue Unmovable. It with how aggressive I play personally, I don't find having dead Kano cards in my deck as a good idea because I tend to Kano a pile. Um, I don't tend to play slow. My games generally don't even go through half the time. So by the time I'm done my game, I'm usually walking around watching everyone else's game, and most, you know, I spend like 20 minutes out of the 50 minutes allotted time watching other people play or more. So I don't want dead Kano cards in there because if I Kano this off the top and I got a full hand of blues, I'm crying and I probably just lost the game. So don't play it. Not for me. If you like to play slow, it's an option, but
I've only really seen those in Blitz list, the blue unmovables,
yeah, the
and
old school blitz list. I
yeah,
agree. Most people moved away from that now. Kano is very, very aggressive
yeah.
in blitz, so it's not really. I don't know, you don't see that too often. So I'm gonna get into the power cards that are always in the deck again. So next, we got three Chain Lightning. These always stay in, no question. Um, no reason to not play them. Some of the most powerful cards in the deck. So as long as you played a wizard non-attack action, this does three and it lets you play your next as an instant from your hand or from arsenal. Doesn't matter. Um, Combined with if it's in your hand, combined with snapback, will let you use the effect. Um, Again, if it's in hand, you got or say you have a discard in arsenal and you got four blues in hand, you're gonna have a good day. Or even like a Tome of Aether Wind in hand with this and two blues, pitch any or get anything off the top in Kano, even if it's a blue, then you play this to follow it up. Then the tome as an instant to draw two more. Your turn then continues. I mean, there's just so many options. This card just does so much for you, and it blocks three, pitches two. Really can't ask for more. Next power card, Sonic Boom, again, blocks 3, comes in for 3, costs 2. For however much damage it does, it lets you play the top card of your deck for free, as long as it's done at least, and reduces the cost by however much damage it does. So if it does 1, reduces the cost of the top card by 1, you just finish paying for the rest. Um, I will say, like, as much as powerful as this card is, I will say that in CC, it has, to me, it has less value than, say, Chain Lightning or the next card I'll show you, the Lessons in Lava. And I say that because there's your deck is quite a bit more diluted in CC than it is in Blitz. Less likely to hit a power card off the top. So a lot of the times when I have this card in hand, I don't prioritize playing this. Um, like if I have the option of playing this or playing another power card like Lessons in Lava or Aether Spindle or trying to do something with Chain Lightning and Aether Flare, or if I have any other power red in my hand, I'm going to prioritize playing that over this. And just because you don't know what you're going to hit off the top with this, unless you have full knowledge. Like if you've opted in some way, whether it was with, like, say you pitched and saw an Aether Spindle on the top, played it, you've opted, you know exactly what's there and what you're going to hit, gravy. But if you have zero knowledge of what's on top of your deck, it's a risk because you got 29 blues and some of them are dead. So like the potions are dead and the Eye of Ophidia is dead. You hit something like that, and great, you've done 4 damage to your opponent, and you've probably taken 10 plus to come back for 4, and you're just gonna cry. So you don't want to do that. Um, so yes, powerful card, but I don't prioritize playing it when it's in my hand. I will go to something else if I happen to have this card in Arsenal and like 4 blues, something like that. I don't care what point in the game it is. It can be turn 2 and the opponent's on 30 life or 35 life. I will crack the lens, see what's there to make sure that I get full impact out of this and make full use of my hand. Uh, it's really only last resort to use something like this without knowledge of what's on top of your deck. You don't want to gamble. Gambling in CC, gambling in Blitz is fine because you got 13 reds out of your 40 card deck. You're in pretty good shape, but in CC, I wouldn't recommend it. Next card, Lessons in Lava, just pure gas. One of the best cards of your deck. Always prioritize playing this when you can. Lets you search up any card you want, depending on what you have, what kind of line of play you want to follow. It's just amazing. It could be as simple as you play this, maybe you have a tome in hand, you search up a chain lightning to pitch off the top, play the chain lightning, play the tome, draw 2 more cards, keep pitching Kano, keep digging, keep finding more damage. Or it could be as simple as you play one to search up the next one, then to search up blazing for lethal. There's all sorts of options. The card is just so versatile. Um, you don't want to block with it unless you absolutely have to. And this is the kind of card, like I was saying. So like this, I'm not going to prioritize playing this if I don't have knowledge of what's on my deck. This is a high priority card. I'm definitely going to play it as soon as I have a chance.
So would you say like of the wizard yellow power cards, the least important one is going to be Sonic Boom, whereas the
The
most
least prioritized one for me to play. It's still important to be in the deck because it
no,
does
but
a
I mean like
ton, right?
least important of the yellow power cards. Would you say
In
is
my
Sonic Boom?
in my with no knowledge, yes, Sonic Boom. If you know what's on top of your deck, it can be the most powerful of the three. If you
Hmm.
know what's there, the top card turns into a free card, which turns into more power, right? So
Hmm.
you like Sonic Boom can definitely turn into more damage than the other two can, but with no knowledge, it's the least impactful. With full knowledge, it's the most impactful. It's an interesting card like that, where its power is directly related to how much you know about the top of your deck. That's why the lens is so good and Gaze the Ages is so good. And even this, you pitch the eye to play Crucible, Sonic Boom, and all of a sudden you know it's there. There's no question, and you're gonna go off with big damage. So you get this in your hand with Sonic Boom, you're a happy boy. Next card, 3 more yellows, Tome Findel. No reason to not play this. Slow matches, you put it in your arsenal. Let you gain 5, uh, or 6 if you play off the tunic. Fantastic. Especially if you draw into a whole grip of blues, you are super excited because now you're about to Kano to your heart's content. So, like as an example, comes out of your arsenal, you play it. Off the tunic, draw 2. You gain 6 life. And you have a full grip 6 blues. Well, you just knew you drew into 4 blues. You drew into 2 more. There's got to be power coming up. Pop the lens, and look what's there because you got six Kanos to get through. Um, and the amount of damage you can do with 6 blues is actually ridiculous, especially on opponents with no or 1 null rune, which is pretty common. So that's the yellows. 12 yellows. Never play any other cards for the yellow slot. These 12 always stay in the deck, never come out. No exception. No need to. Now to the reds. These are the reds that always stay in the deck, never come out. No exception. 3 Blazing Aether. Um, this is the card that this is the one that enables all your 20 plus damage turns. Um, Knowing how and when to use it, extremely important. Probably the most important part of Kano. I play 3 always. I see some lists play 2, and I do understand that you're not likely to get 3 off in a game. And chances are, if you get 2 off, you've won the game. 2 significant ones off, you've won the game. But I play 3 in case I'm forced to, like, if I draw 1, opponent's going first, and I'm forced to block. I don't feel bad blocking with 1, um, knowing that I still have 2 more available to me. So those 3 are there. Next 3, Aether Spindle. Aether Spindle always stays in deck. 3 of the red. Opt is the most powerful thing you have as a wizard. Does 4 damage, pumps with 1 with the Crucible, so 5 for 3, pretty much is what you're doing. On 1 or no null rune, you're opting 4 or 5, and opting 4 is insane. Um, Even better if you start a turn, you have like Aether Flare in hand, and you pitch for Kano, you find this card on top. Well, then you're playing the Aether Flare for 4, and then following this up with 8. Uh, or for 7, sorry, because they're going to block 1 with their 1 null rune. This will follow up for 7, then you're opting 6. Uh, and that pretty much is just GG. If you're ever opting like 6, 7 plus cards in a turn, I don't see any way to lose. And last card that never comes out, 3 Tomo Aetherwind. Again, one of your best reds. Draw 2, and at opportune times you'll use the buff. Not always required, but it can be what you need to get there on a kill. But between Red Reverberate and Chain Lightning, being able to play this as an instant, just to draw 2 to keep going, amazing. So next we'll get into the sideboard. And with this sideboard, I'll go over the 2 packages. There's 2. I'll kind of lay them out. So I should say that that was 29 blues that always stay in, 12 yellows that always stay in, and 9 reds that always stay in. So you're pretty much adding 10 cards to the deck, um, to fill out your 60 card deck. So there's 2 packages. There's the wide and the tall. So for wide, playing 3 Aether Flare, 3 red Reverberate, 3 red Snapback, and a single Voltic Bolt to fill that in. It's basically Aether Flare against low or no null rune is one of the most powerful cards in the deck. However much damage it does, buff the next spell by that much, by the amount it does. Blocks 3, costs 1, pumps to 4. You can use Metacarpus to pump it to 5. I mean, you could have something as simple as this into blazing into another blazing. You have one in arsenal. You opt one off the top. I mean, there's all sorts of options. This is just insane. Reverberate. Again, when you're going wide on low null rune, this comes in for 3 for 1. Pumps with the 1 with the Crucible. However much damage it does, lets you banish a card from your hand and plays it instant. So the kind of cards you might want to play off of that. Chain Lightning, you banish it, play it, lets you play another card from your hand as an instant. Maybe it's a Tome or whatever, another power card. Even Blazing Eighth, or yeah, could be Blazing Eighth. Or you come in for this with for 4, Chain for 3, Blazing for however much you've done. And if they're on 1 null rune, well, it's gonna come in for 5. Maybe not super impactful, but you just did 10 damage or whatever that turn. Pretty good. on not even needing the Kano and one single blue. Um, what you can do on a single blue is pretty nice with a card like that. Last one, Snapback. Snapback just lets you play as an instant, 3 damage for one, pumps with one. Pairs extremely well with this. Play Aether Flare for 4 with the Crucible. And if they're on no Null Rune, you're going to come in for 7 with Snapback. Off of one blue card and 2 reds, you can potentially do 11 damage against no Null Rune. If they're on 1, you're going to do what, 9 or whatever. Um, come in for 6, go to 5, whatever it is. 8, I guess. But point is, and that's a turn you could have potentially blocked with, right? You could have had this in Arsenal. You block with 2 cards, and then your snap back off of this and 1 blue. A lot of damage off of basically nothing, and you had the opportunity to block if you really wanted to. If it's 2 more blues you had, well, go wild, Kano to your heart's content. And then the last card, just to fill out the 10, is 1 red Voltic. You could really use something else. Doesn't really matter if you prefer something else in the slot. Doesn't really do a lot for you. It's not a great card for when you want to go wide. Cost 2, comes in for 5. Doesn't really fit this particular plan. But as a one of, you don't hate seeing it. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah, Voltic is usually going tall. Um,
Correct.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. So for the tall version, that's where the Voltics come in. 3 red Voltic bolts, 3 fork lightnings, 3 stir the Aether wind, and here is 3 cinderings.
That cindering is interesting.
Yeah. So basically, the way this works, this is your tall version where you got the Voltics, the forks, and the stirs. Everything here lets you go tall. So like this lets you do these 2 cards with a couple blues. Um, we'll let you come in for 12. If you have the tunic up and use Metacarpus, come in for 14. If you had a potion and a blazing and arsenal, well, all of a sudden you're doing a ton of damage. Even through 3 null rune, doesn't matter. You're going to do a metric ton. You're not going to care what they're doing. So generally speaking, this is the 10 I would run if I know they're on high null rune. And if I'm against a deck that is very blue heavy on high null rune, then I'm adding 2 more of these because you need these to get you there. The Cinderings will let you opt 3, buff for 1, playing on your opponent's turn. So you put this in arsenal, chip them on their turn, hoping that they pitch with 2 cards to avoid damage, and then on their turn they're pitching their last 2 cards to attack you or do whatever they're going to do. Maybe they pitch both their cards to hammer you for 6 if it's Bravo. Then you play this, you're going to opt 3, you have a full grip, hopefully at mostly blues. You're going to see some power there, and that's when you're going to get most of your damage in because you're not going to do most of the damage on their turn unless you're doing this or this. So basically, between the 2 packages, when you're looking at how do you decide how to side against your opponent, you want to think.
It's like you wouldn't want to side. You're going tall, kind of against like the more control characters like Mecha Guardian. Hypothetically, and you're going wide against it's more like ninja, warrior, brute kind of thing. Is
Yeah,
that
you want to kind
generally?
of think. You want to kind of think how is what is. And let me put it this way: if you're playing locals and everyone knows you play wizard, you're pretty much always going to be stuck playing tall because they're all going to bring null rune. Uh, unless they're like okay against aggro Katsu, even if they're um, even if you're a local player and you only play wizard, you're against aggro Katsu, you're safe to go sideboard. The wide plan. No aggro Katsu is going to play 3 null rune. It makes no sense. Their deck has like 14 blues. They won't be able to pitch to stop anything. It's just a waste of their time. They'll have no turn. They're not going to pitch 3 reds to stop something for 3 because then they just lose the game. So you're pretty much okay to go with this. But otherwise, if you're against decks that have say 20 blues in their deck, you're a local and you only play wizard, you're just going to side this way. If you're going to an event that requires deck lists and people don't necessarily know that you're going to play wizard, or you play wizard sometimes, not always, well, then you're going to hedge your bet. So you're going to look at a deck and you're going to decide what's the likeliness that they're on it. Like if the person, some decks naturally can get null room quite like say Brute and Mech, they both have access to the two null rune helmets. That's one slot. Because like almost every deck nowadays will have at least one null rune. Um, Simply because of Briar and Viscerai. So you're gonna have one null rune in every single deck, so you know that's gonna happen. But it's that follow up two that's really killer, right? So um, like against Rhinar and against Dash, you're almost guaranteed. I want to say guaranteed, but it's pretty likely that they'll have three. But the difference between the two is quite substantial, right? Because like Rhinar typically has, um, like say between 16 and 18 blues in deck at a time, so he's not really blue heavy. So you're actually fine to go with the wide package against Rhinar, because chances are if they're pitching a lot of blues to stop your damage, they don't have a turn to return with, because a lot of the cards are quite expensive. Even just swinging the claw costs too. And if they swing the claw at you, you don't block. You don't even care.
I'd assume that this
Um,
is the same for like your azaleas, like your rangers, that they're gonna
yeah,
play mostly red.
Azalea is another example of someone who's very easy for her to have three null rune, or two with the one with the helmet, the cross wraps, and one with the gloves. They're almost guaranteed to have two. But again, you play wide package because they don't really want to block, because most of their cards they only have like a very Azalea maybe has like what 10, 12 blues typically in deck, maybe less. I don't know. Depends on their build. Um, So you're fine to go wide against that. Again against Reiner, again, even though he's has three null rune, you're still be okay to go the wide version and ping, because a lot of the times if they want to have any kind of turn, they can't just block you out. And they're gonna run into a hand where they have no blues in hand, or they're gonna have no blues or one blue. They pitch, they do that, and then on their turn they're gonna pitch two reds to attack you, and that's when you crack the lens and you dig and you find and you kill. You do the work on their turn.
I suppose that
Uh,
this is the same can be said for not just your warriors in Dorinthia, but also into Bolton, right? Where at least in the matches I observed during the event, the saber turn kind of a thing, and the Dorinthias generally are more of your characters that you're wanting to go wide against. And, correct me if I'm wrong here, Mike.
well, um, if I'm just gonna like just go general breakdown of heroes, like against like say Dash, who has three null runes, but she also has like 28 blues in deck generally, or like say 25 to 28. You really need to play on their turn. You need to go tall. No exception. You definitely lose with this package. You have no chance of winning. Even with this against Dash is one of the hardest matchups. You're definitely probably going to lose. I hate to say that and be defeatist, but Dash is one of the worst matchups you can possibly have. Um, it's just so miserable. I'm trying to think. Katsu, yeah, you play wide against Katsu, no exception. Bravo, Bravo's an interesting one now, because most people just play a net deck list, and the net deck list typically have one null rune. Um, as the New Zealanders seem to think that Wizard is not a threat, which I understand. So they play their one null rune. They don't care, and they just figure that they're gonna zealous belting, rouse the ancients, and swing the hammer over and over and over, and just put so much pressure on you and force you to kill them so fast that you just can't do it in time between their three sigils and things like that. And I get it. Um, but yeah, so you're just kind of guessing against Bravo. If they're on high null rune, you want this, but chances are they're playing a net decked list unless they know you're showing up with Wizard, and you're okay to go with this. Um,
You got your
as for the
Briar as well, right? So
Briar's another one, generally on like their loadout, they're gonna have one null rune in list, so you're okay. You play wide. Lexi is surprisingly going to be hard. It's very easy for Lexi to have the null rune with the chest, with the new ice chest, And then they play the Spell Void in the glove, so that's 2 block at a pivotal time. And Lexi can, whether it's lightning or ice, they both put out quite a bit of pressure. I think ice is quite a bit more oppressive. Um, lightning at least is just flat damage, and you can attempt to race them. But ice just has so many oppressive effects that super annoying to play against. But
I can imagine revealing an ice and getting a frostbite token at the beginning of the turn can be, a bit much when you're trying to activate instances on your opponent's turn. Or can you just use your instant before the
yeah,
frostbite token comes
you
off?
can on the turn where you plan to kill them, so long as they don't have the gloves up, then yeah, you would just play in response to their Lexi ability, a revealing of a card. Uh, Oldhim is another one. Tons of blues, probably. But again, I don't think they play much Null so you probably want to go wide against them. Typical Oldhim list. Um, Dorinthia, you side wide because they're not going to have more than one Null Rune. Viscera, you side wide, probably on one Null Rune. Trying to think who else is there. Against Kano, nah, you're never going to see another Kano. So you're okay there. Um, as for the last few cards in the list, these are like the flex cards. This is like where you add your own spice um, and what you want to do. So for me, I do have another time snap potion. I don't really find myself putting it in ever. So I haven't really thought about it too much. This is what I had at Road to Nationals. Um, yeah, I don't know what else to do with it. The next two blue Aether Eyes. Well, there's no other color, but two Aether Eyes. This is specifically chain tech, nothing else. So cost 1 and negates a target instant. It was specifically just to try to catch them on a Art of War turn. So if you can use this to negate an Art of War, then you pretty much turn their turn off or a huge portion of it and really lower the threat of it. That's all that was there for. Wasn't trying to stop anything else other than Art of War with the Aetherize. But again, so like these 3 cards, and finally there's a one of Nourishing Emptiness. This would go in the deck. I play so aggressively. I don't like dead cards off of Kano. If I knew every single game was going to be very slow paced and everyone's on high null rune, and I'm almost always siding with the tall package, then yeah, this would be a great fit with this as well. Um, because they're not going to have armor to block a dominated attack. It's going to let you draw 5. Has good use, but I play so aggressively, and I don't want a dead card off Kano going in there. So as for these 4 cards, like I said, they're flex cards. You maybe think about what you typically face at your local meta, and you figure out what is good against them, and that could be those 4 slots. Otherwise, these are flex slots. Um, you can do whatever you want here. But otherwise, this is the core. This is your core sideboard, wide, tall, and this is your core deck of 50 cards, 50 plus your equipment, and this is 24 here. Well, with these here, so it's 20, and then 4 more, the flex cards. And that's pretty much it. That's Kano.
Aetherize. That is Talk to me a bit about what matches are you using that Aetherize into? Are you using that into I guess other Kanos
No, no,
or
it was specifically just for chain,
oh no, just
just to
chain. That's
counter
right. Yeah,
art of
yeah,
chain and Levia, just for art of war.
yeah.
Um,
Oh,
you
Lexi, I
catch an
guess
art of
too. She could use no, actually, never mind. They don't do that. Never mind. Go
yeah.
ahead.
It's pretty much just the shadow heroes that get huge card advantage off of art of war. So you want to stop that, especially chain. Chain's the worst of all. Um, but now you don't really see chains now, so it's not really a big deal. But yeah, that's pretty much the deck. That's not really much else to say.
Well, I
Um,
appreciate it, Mike. I think this is going to be very illuminating for many aspiring young wizards who are wanting to get their get their whiz kids on. This is definitely inspiring for me. It's the surprising some cards I thought we might see in there was maybe Nourishing Emptiness. I know there was a lot of decks that were running those
yeah,
out there.
uh,
But perhaps no, I mean like in your
yeah.
core
I
there,
understand what
like it is helps somewhat with the Lexi, but I really don't think you're just like Dorinthia is not sitting on nourishing emptiness and hoping to get it in their hand. They're just like this is if I never see this card, it's fine. It's
Yeah,
but
I will say it is my favorite deck. It is my pet deck.
mhm.
If it was more viable, I would never play anything else. The only reason I play any other deck is because this can be it can be a little frustrating when people know you're going to play it and they just show up with a full null rune. Certain decks like Dash are just impossible when they're on full null rune, and impossible matchups are just terrible. It's not fun. It's not fun to feel like you lose when you just flip the hero, you know. Um, but I didn't feel that way the entire event that we just played um, last weekend at the Chase the Case, as I played three Bravos, couple Brutes, a Bolton, and a Prism. Oh, and just to touch on Prism, it's pretty much an auto loss matchup. That and Dash are both horrible. Prism's probably even worse. Um, I did get quite lucky to win that game. I won't lie. Um, More to do with the opponent making an error than it was uh, exceptional play from me. Like I feel like I did the right things when he like popping shields when he was attacking with them to negate the go again and that type of thing. So I did everything I could do to win the game, and thankfully um, he made a slight mistake at the end, which cost him the game. Um,
Well, I mean that's sometimes that's how you got to get it done.
yeah, yeah,
Like Tolarian says, sometimes reading the card explains the card, right?
yeah,
But
yeah.
anyways, Mike, I want to say thank you so much for bringing this deck profile out to us. Um, you know, I know that there's going to be some next level stuff cooking up in the next event this weekend, and I really look forward to seeing it. So, with that, is there any final comments you want to leave?
No, I'd like to thank you for putting on a great event, and everyone should go check out your store because it's always a good time playing there weekly.
All
I
right.
always have a good time, good environment, good people, uh, and the skill level ranges there from high to new, and it's always fun to teach people to play, and it's always fun to get good quality competitive games too.
Give hopes out to the Wizards. All right. Thank you, Mike. Have yourself a good night. And for those who are wanting to catch any kind of footage for our next event, we will have that stuff up as soon as we can, especially Mike in the grand finals doing Wizard things. Take care, guys.